country continues to commemorate Human Rights Day. Our next discussion takes a look at protest culture in South Africa. Just yesterday, the EFF held its national shutdown, just a week after the Nehawu strike. Several civil society organizations signed a statement calling for the rights of those who did not want to protest to be protected. Let's bring in Nonkululeko Mntambo. She's with Defend Our Democracy for more on this discussion. Nonkululeko, it's great to see you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. And we're matching this morning. You can't see me, but I can see you. Thanks very much for joining us. You know, we had this discussion earlier on this morning with a former leader of the UDF to talk about protest culture in South Africa, why perhaps many South Africans will have felt the need on the face of it to join the EFF strike, the EFF protest yesterday, but for various reasons didn't do so. Back in the apartheid era, when we had a clear enemy, it was, I suppose, you know, very, very much simplifying it, easier to unite against the apartheid government. Is it harder to do so now?
I believe that South Africa is missing a joint mission, a joint issue. I think that there's many things that are plaguing us at the moment between corruption and state capture and ESCOM and joblessness and so many other issues. However, if you look at the apartheid era compared to now, there's a joint overall mission. There's the answering of the national question in a sense that is not happening right now. And in that way, I think that there are more barriers to mobilizing. But I suppose we should also not over-romanticize what was happening during the apartheid era, because even during those times when people did mobilize, it was many people, but it wasn't everyone. People still had the divide that was put on them by the apartheid regime, by race, by class, by ethnic group, and so on and so forth. So we're just dealing with a different type of struggle right now than we did then, I would suppose.
Right. If we look at various countries around the world and we look at this issue of active citizenry, there have been many countries, some of them on the continent, whose citizens have come out in their hundreds of thousands as they've protested against one issue or the other. We've not really, and maybe you'll disagree with me, because we've had several protests, right? We are in fact a nation of protests in many respects. But have we had that kind of moment in our country where we've banded, we can really say we've banded together as South Africans? And I'm talking about in a democratic South Africa. We've come together and we've fought for one thing.
Recalling the biggest protest moment in post-democracy South Africa was the Fees Must Fall, I believe, of 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe that was the last moment where a large group of South Africans came together over one specific issue across that many lines. But you're quite right, when we are dealing with this, not necessarily smaller issues, but we do tend to deal with issues within our racial group or economic group or so on and so forth. We tend to be divided in the issues that affect us most. So yes, that is one of our biggest problems, that we protest in a divided way over issues that affect us all at once.
Yeah, or in our political group, right? And I wonder, in your reading of the situation, how much party politics plays into, you know, how united South Africa is able to be right now.
So that is a genuine, it's a cause for concern, because especially as South Africa is transitioning into different styles and forms of government, we've seen more and more coalitions coming up. It is something that we ask ourselves: will a coalition be able to come together on certain issues in protest and in parliament, or or wherever they may find themselves, to come together on certain issues? We are definitely a country that has taken the party politics into our culture, where people almost believe in it somewhat religiously. So to ask someone to remove themselves from their colors is almost like to ask someone to reject their core beliefs. And that is something that South Africans are going to have to reckon with as we see more and more coalition governments popping up.
Yeah.
But it is definitely an issue that we're facing right now.
And surely that must benefit the ruling party in many ways, Nonkululeko. The fact that, we can't get our coalition story together. If we just look at Tshwane Council, Johannesburg Council, in Tshwane we had a mayor, we didn't, and the list goes on and on. How much of that benefits the ANC?
I think it would be difficult for me to say how much it does and doesn't benefit the ANC, because on one end, there's the possibility of anyone and everyone coming against you. And as the shift in power continues to tilt, the possibility of a coalition having more power than the ANC becomes more and more true. And the possibility of people coming together united against the ANC specifically becomes more and more true. But on the other hand, I think you're definitely correct in the fact that there is something somewhat beneficial, especially in the outpouring of information that this doesn't work and it works best in this way when we are in power. So I think it's going to be up to the people in terms of what risk that they're willing to take. Are they willing to risk the coalition or willing to risk the ANC as it is right now?
So what's the future of active citizenry in our country, given everything that we've discussed so far this morning? Many people would perhaps say that they would have wanted to join a protest like the one held by the EFF yesterday, because the issues that they outlined for that national shutdown affect us all. The economy, load shedding, and a whole range of other issues. Unemployment, our unemployment numbers are through the roof. But they don't necessarily want to align themselves with the EFF for whatever reason that might be. So what are the next steps then?
I will answer very biasly, given my position, but I sincerely believe that the only next step is civil society. And civil society being the people who are working on the ground on the issues that are actually being protested about. Because in civil society, you can come in your colors, you can come in your beliefs. What brings us together is the core issue that we're gathered around with ourselves that defend our democracy. It's the issue of protecting the Constitution. And so whatever color, whatever ideas you may espouse, they are grounded under that common purpose. And that's the same with many other civil society organizations. And unfortunately, because there isn't the pomp and circumstance around it, it's very easy to forget the amazing work that has been done at a ground level. Just thinking of your most common people, like your Abahlalpa Semjondolo, your gift of the givers, all of these people who have sincerely shifted not only narratives but very material conditions for their people. I think if South Africans are looking to make change, I believe that's where we start, in our communities, with the organizations that already exist. And unfortunately, without the attention that a party may get, but definitely with a lot of effectiveness.
Yeah, that's a really interesting angle that you're taking there, Nonkululeko. Move away from party politics and sort of shift your allegiance to the people who effectively are on the ground, right? These are the people who are faced every day. They're at the coalface of the issues facing our community. It's such an important angle, especially given that it is Human Rights Day today.
Absolutely. And I think that, the reason why I'm quite emphatic in highlighting it is because I believe that many South Africans are looking to make this change. I think the idea that South Africans are just angry people waiting for another thing to be angry about. I mean, just to also highlight, the anger is justified. Yeah. My electricity could go off at any time right now. But the idea that there's this general switch between either apathy or rage I don't think it necessarily captures the framework of where South Africans are coming from. People want to work. They just sincerely don't know where to put their energies right now, because it's either there's a lack of information or too much information or false information or things of that nature. So start where you are is where human rights has always been and where the country needs to go.
Wonderful way to end off our interview. Nonkululeko Mntambo, let me thank you for your time this morning. Thanks for weighing in on what is quite an important discussion on this Human Rights Day. Nonkululeko is with Defend Our Democracy.